Yeah.
Brilliant. Oh, thank you everybody for coming back to Q&A. Hello, I'm Karma. I'm Bethan's producer. We've got Sara Carter, who's a creative, what we call you, a creative director? Creative director and choreographer, semantic therapist and trauma specialist. We've got Jess, Herman, who has been a creative mentor through this part of the process and also over the last year really, and probably before that, certainly in the last phase as well. She's been a real rock throughout the whole process. And we've also got our partners, so we've got New Pathways, we've got Mike and Jennie from New Pathways, which is a rape crisis and sexual abuse support centre. And then we've got Mark from Green Ribbon Mental Health Association. It's an arts mental health festival. First of all, wow, thank you, Bethan. Personally for me, watching Bethan going on this journey over the last year, but also particularly in the last couple of weeks, it's just been, a couple of weeks especially, but over the last 16 weeks, it's just been an extraordinary thing. It's been such a feat, I think, for you to have kind of come through this incredible journey. And there's been sticky times and difficult times and a million challenges, I'm sure, that we'll talk about in a moment in terms of making work about your mental health and that journey. But thank you, because every time I've seen the full run of this show 3 times now, and each time I go on a different journey and I see a different journey. I just think it's an extraordinary piece of work. Thank you. Woohoo! So I'm just going to ask a couple of questions and then throw it open to you, basically. Bethan, what made you want to make work about mental health, and why do you think it is important?
Straight in, mate. Actually, what made me want to do it initially was feeling like I didn't have anywhere else to do it. Like, I was thinking about this the other day, and I started making this piece of work for very selfish reasons initially, and then it broadened. But initially it was like, there's all this stuff going on in me, and I don't know where I can take it. And one of the privileges of being someone who does theatre arts was like, oh, I can take it there. So it was, it started from that place of I'm bursting, and this stuff's coming out of me in maybe all the not right places, or places that don't feel safe. Maybe if I go and play around with it in a studio, it will help me. So that's kind of where it started. And also it literally did start with this show in Belgium. I came back from that and I was sitting on the tube in London. I was living there at the time, and I vomited a play, literally. It was really weird. It never happened to me before. And I was on the tube, and suddenly I had there's literally a whole play in my head, and I got off the train, sat on the wall near Seven Sisters, and just wrote the whole thing. It was just and that was a piece called 10 Women, and that was about body image and sexuality and the media and society, and that was kind of the start of this. So both of those things together, I guess. Does that answer your question?
It does. It's just about mental health and why it's important to make work about mental health. And also, we were talking over dinner with partners, with these guys about the importance and the impact of making work about mental health. And I don't know if you guys have got anything to say about that.
I think it's about giving people the opportunity to, I think as Bethan was saying, about talking about trauma, talking about pain, talking about struggle, where arts is the vehicle, is the enabler to make that happen. I think I've only kind of been in arts and mental health for about 10 years, but in all that time I've seen that arts can help spark conversations around mental health like precious little else can, I think. So it's important that this sort of work is not just appropriately funded, that's maybe another conversation for another time, but certainly championed. You're the first theatre company at the Mental Health Foundation in Wales that we've supported in this way, like to give you a platform at our festival in October. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm there.
Cool.
Although I said I was never doing the show again yesterday.
I mean, we've obviously got quite a big team here of people. We've got you partners, we've got different creators, we've got you, and I'm interested to ask you, Sara, about kind of what is the power of that group working, when we're kind of exploring mental health. Obviously, you do a lot of work around mental health yourself.
Yeah. So when we talk about mental health, we can relate it to the activity of the mind, but actually mental health, the reality is that it lives in the body, in all of us, and that the wounds that were created without it being a blame thing generally come from a relationship wounding. So there's something about what that can do to us, how it can silence us, how it can put us into hiding, and the trap that we can find ourselves in, and sometimes for some people never getting out. But if we have a team, if we have a group of people that are willing to be in those difficult spaces together, and through a creative process we can find ways to transform and to have safe spaces to share and connect and relate, that it's actually through those relationships that healing takes place. And actually we need that. There's so far we can go on our own journey, and a lot of us have to do that solitary journey initially, but then we can only get so far with it. After that we really have to do the next part in relationship, and it's what Bethan's mentioned already, that thing about being seen and being heard. We need safe spaces, we need others to hear us, so that those wounds can then find the healing that's needed, the place, whatever the root cause was, the cause of them was, then that can be met through those relationships. So yeah, collaboration really helps that and is essential actually.
Can I just jump in?
Yeah, do.
This is programmed in the program. It's programmed in the program as a one-woman show, and that literally could not be further from the truth. I've got 10 people on my creative team, and then I've got 8 people in my women's circle holding me, and then maybe an extended group of 20 friends, and then my partners supporting me, and then my family. It's not a one-woman show. There's one woman on stage, but actually this would literally be impossible without that web of support and holding. And I think that's another kind of important conversation in this, because I feel like we often get into spaces in our culture where we individualize the healing process, and it becomes the responsibility of the individual. And actually, like Sara said, there's a limit to how far we can go with that. And then we need organisations like New Pathways to provide us with therapists and care. We need organisations like Green Ribbon to provide us with information. We need our friends. We need we can't do it alone.
Thank you. And so, yeah, it'd be just good to fold these partners in, and why these partners, and what is that kind of relationship between you, and how does it support? How does she support you, and how do they support your work?
Do you want to pick up that? I think it's multifaceted, really. I mean, the fact that Bethan is here performing, there's so many different facets to this. It raises awareness of issues and encourages people to come forward. There's still so much stigma and shame, particularly around sexual violence, that creates massive barriers in terms of people coming forward. So, statistically in the audience this evening, probably 10 to a dozen of people, statistically, probably been affected by sexual violence or will be at some point in their lives. How many people disclose? Less than 15% come forward and disclose. The scale is massive. Why am I talking about it? This is so important in terms of helping to break the stigma, break the shame that people shouldn't have. So there's that aspect of it. But also Bethan did a lot of work with our clients. You attended quite a few service user groups with our clients. And you wouldn't have known, but I could pick out those stories of the contributions that they made, because you weren't just telling your story, she was telling their story. And for them that was massively important, because they don't have the platform, or maybe the skills or the eloquence to, like Bethan has, to tell their stories, but you did on their behalf, and that was massive for them. Yeah, so it's just been a fantastic project. Really.
And they, like, it makes me cry when I'm talking about actually. Yeah, that group was just, yeah, I really was really struggling to feel like I could do this, and the service user group have been like my rock for, so basically when New Pathways provide free counselling services, which they do, which is incredible, and I was also given that when New Pathways, so my relationship with them started as a client. When you kind of finish the counselling process, you have access to the service user group, which is all of the other people who've been through those processes, and you can meet once a month and talk and share. And I'd literally like never felt that understood. It was like, I remember talking to you about it. I came out of the first session and was just weeping. I was like, oh my God, like everybody in this space gets it in a way that's beyond words actually, and they were so encouraging that every time I was like, oh God, I can't do this, like, blah. I just would remember my conversations with them, and there was one woman in particular who one day was just like, babe, like, even if you just sit on that stage and do nothing, or you sit on that stage and you dance to Madonna for an hour and a half, that is fine. And it was like, yes, okay. And it was such a, I know they got a lot out of it, but I like really, for me it was so important. And listening to, they shaped the work so much, it changed so much as a result of my conversations with all of them and their stories and their experiences and their needs, and what they said felt like important. And,
Do you know what one of the saddest ironies is? Last year as an organisation we got offices throughout Wales, including one here